Uh-oh.
Your deal is coming up with ESPN. I believe, does it come to an end in August of 2025?
It comes to in the midsummer of 2025. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on our active conversations, but we're out there talking to everybody. We're actually love our partnership with ESPN.
You know what I heard? I heard that Top Rank are a little bit dissatisfied with their relationship with ESPN because they feel they're not getting pushed and promoted enough. We know that ESPN prioritizes the UFC.
They push that stuff hard.
Boxing can at times be hard to find on the ESPN Plus app. At times hard to find, though not all the time.
In any event, that's a part of the dissatisfaction, I'm told.
Though I don't expect Todd to air that out publicly.
It's so interesting because we've seen the deck change so much with the other sports. And I think it's been wonderful to watch. If it's the NBA going to 3 media partners, the NFL's at 5. I mean, it is amazing. And then also looking at the perspective between legacy media and technology companies. And even compounding that is, are you only looking at domestic rights or are you looking at global rights?
A lot of time has passed since DAZN debuted in America, and a good number of American-based promotional outfits shaded the platform.
Bob Arum and Top Rank being one among them.
Times are changing, and DAZN has fast become the global leader when it comes to boxing, when it comes to that particular content, that particular combat sport, and it's conceivable that Top Rank could work out something with them.
So I think all of these things are on the table. And we have a wonderful team that works side by side with myself and Bob and our team in doing this. And we're really excited about, what this next chapter looks like.
Are you at this point, is the window open where you can start speaking to other people?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, it is.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so when do you think we just saw, the Queensberry DAZN deal get announced, and that starts in April. So what are we, like 5 months out? When do you think we might hear where you'll end up post this deal?
We've talked about Queensberry's landmark deal with DAZN that starts in April of next year. That's a big deal that Frank Warren ended up over there. Opens up a lot of doors.
Possibilities.
Top Rank joining them is a possibility.
I don't know. I don't want a clock on us, right? I really want to make sure we make the right decisions. And we have a team, the agents at CAA that do our media rights are terrific at it. And that we come up with a really good strategy at looking like what's the best platform for it. Obviously, DAZN in the UK has done just locking up George and Frank Warren was great. They did a great job with Eddie Hearn or Leon. They have really robust international markets in Germany where they have primary soccer rights. So I think we have to look at everybody, and I think this is an exciting time. And so I'm not sure exactly on the timing, but we want to make sure we're not going to be rushed on the timing. We want to make sure we have the right partners in place, and we look forward to it.
I appreciate that you can't talk too much about it, but just one follow-up if I can. I do see some people kind of dismissing that ESPN's going to get out of the boxing business. Is that inaccurate? Are you actively speaking to them? Are they a player in this?
We're actually having conversations with ESPN.
So another part of what I was told about Top Rank's relationship with ESPN and feeling like they're not being pushed and promoted enough on the platform is that the UFC might be leaving, that the UFC might leave ESPN, and there could be a bidding war between other platforms for the rights to UFC. And if the UFC leaves ESPN, well, that frees up a lot of money that they might be able to then pour into boxing.
Which could be enough incentive for Top Rank to stay on board.
As well, we're having conversations with everybody. And if ESPN, I don't, we've had a great relationship with them. What it looks like after we go out into the marketplace and start talking to them and talking to the other players, we'll see if there's a place for them in our content stack. Obviously, we love the guys there have been longtime relationships with myself even before it was they were even at ESPN. So I really value them.
So Top Rank entered into this deal with ESPN close to 7 years ago in 2018. And for the most part, I think they've done a good job of bringing eyes to the platform while simultaneously being responsible with the spending, being responsible with the budget. If you will notice, the last 7 years, Top Rank didn't put on a lot of big pay-per-views.
It's actually a good thing, because the less times you do that, the less times you risk losing house money.
We know that in this boxing market, pay-per-views are not selling like hotcakes, so whenever you put one on, it's risky. Top Rank has put on less pay-per-views than everybody. They've done more regular fights as part of a regular schedule, which is more beneficial to the platform because that's what they want. Sustained viewership over time.
Pay-per-views are really for the boxing people, the fighters, the managers, a chance to make a bit more money than they would make as part of a regular fight. The network, the platform itself, it gets more out of the regular schedule and the regular fights.
So I think Top Rank has done a very good job there. They say that they're talking.
Todd does.
That they're still talking is a good sign and a good indicator of the job that they've done already and what they might do in the future. That their relationship right now is on better ground than, say, the PBC's was with Fox when their deal ended, or Showtime.
Renewing wasn't an option for the PBC when those deals ended.
That is, Fox didn't want to renew, Showtime didn't want to renew. The door seems open for ESPN to renew because they're having those conversations. Top Rank might still leave,
but conversations are being had.
So you figure that if the UFC migrates to another platform, say Amazon Prime or Netflix, wherever,
more priority might go into ESPN's boxing content because they can take the money they would dedicate in the Dana White's UFC and dedicate it to Top Rank.
Some of it. In a situation where Top Rank stays on board with ESPN, what they might do is stay on board with them, but globally, when it comes to those foreign markets, they might ink a deal with DAZN because they're available in a lot of territories. So in America, you might watch Top Rank on ESPN, and in the UK, you might watch it on DAZN.
And other territories.
On the off chance that they leave ESPN, go all in with DAZN.
Well, that's a little trickier because you would have 3 different promotional outfits on the platform that all cater to the American market, do shows in the American market. Top Rank, Matchroom, Golden Boy. That's all 3. All 3 are the big ones.
As the PBC is shrinking.
Could be a bit of a logistics issue there if they were to go all in with DAZN, because you'd have to work out the dates. You don't want one event cannibalizing the other.
Say a Matchroom show is happening at the same time as a Top Rank show or a Golden Boy show, something like that.
Ideally, the way you want it is consistent content getting pumped out every weekend. One weekend you got a Top Rank show, next weekend it's a Matchroom show, after that Golden Boy, in a rotation.
As that would enable them to continually bring eyes to the platform weekend after weekend after weekend with little friction.
In a scenario where they go all in with DAZN.
There are other scenarios that we might have to entertain, like Top Rank potentially going to Amazon Prime. You never know who else they're talking to. Or Netflix. Netflix is doing the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, so somebody over there has some interest in combat sports and boxing.
So maybe they go to Netflix.
There's more than one, more than some ways that this could break down next year when the ESPN deal is up, and it's all very interesting.
I like the idea of Top Rank going to DAZN, as that would consolidate the American promotional outfits, value for money to the consumer.
To me, that is the ideal scenario, but that is also wishful thinking. Ultimately, we'll see what they decide to do and where they decide to go. In men's heavyweight news, Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua 2, Matchroom versus Queensberry are no longer expected for February 22nd Riyadh season show. A pair of high-profile boxing rematches, Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua and Matchroom versus Queensberry, are no longer likely for Saudi Arabia's first Riyadh season card in the coming year in February. Dubois stunned the sporting world when he dropped Joshua 4 times en route to a 5th-round knockout at Wembley Stadium this past September to successfully defend his IBF heavyweight title. An immediate rematch was expected, but Dubois promoter Frank Warren confirmed to IFL TV this past Monday, excluding any dramatic turnarounds, the Brits will not be sharing the ring again in early 2025. Unless Joshua came back to us in the next 48 hours and said it's on, yes, Warren responded. When asked if the Dubois versus Joshua rematch was completely dead in the water for February, I was told Joshua had, or he has, an injury, so if he's got an injury, he can't fight. Dubois will still defend his IBF title on February 22nd in Riyadh against a different opponent. There's a couple of opportunities, Warren said. A quite interesting one came up late last week, and we're looking at and considering that, and we'll make a decision fairly soon. Warren represents at least 2 other fighters in a heavyweight division that would represent compelling opponents for Dubois, Zhang and Joseph Parker.
So, that more or less seals the deal that Anthony and Daniel won't be fighting next because the story is that Anthony's injured. A lot of people don't buy that. They don't believe it.
What I'm seeing people say is the way he got trashed, the way he got thrashed so easily by Daniel Dubois, there wouldn't be much sense in going back in there with him. That's how some people feel.
Others, more like myself,
feel that irrespective of what happened in the first fight, if he doesn't run it back with Daniel, and if he doesn't avenge the loss, he will never be the same. And moving forward, you could get him a couple of other guys to fight, and maybe he can beat them.
But he won't be able to settle his soul if he doesn't beat Daniel.
So they're not fighting next. Maybe it's something that could happen later on in the year, or the year after that. I don't know.
What we do know is they are not fighting next.
Of Daniel Dubois' potential opponent options, the leading candidate seems to be Joseph Parker. Joseph is the current frontrunner to challenge Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight title in February of next year, following confirmation that Anthony Joshua will not pursue an immediate rematch with the IBF champion. Boxing Scene understands. The New Zealander, currently not ranked by the IBF due to holding an interim strap with the WBO, put his name forward as speculation started to mount last week that Joshua had ruled himself out of a revenge mission following his September loss to Daniel. Those close to negotiations, who are keen to make the best possible fight for the 27-year-old Dubois against the most formidable opponent on the Riyadh season Queensberry Promotions event, do not foresee Parker being unranked by the IBF as a problem.
Why not?
Because they still have time to situate it. He could always drop that WBO interim title and see about getting a rank via the IBF. If push comes to shove, he'll drop that interim title for the opportunity to fight Daniel.
If that's what it takes.
What you have seen with the matchmaking at Riyadh season is it will be one of the best, if not the best, available candidate, a source told Boxing Scene. Parker isn't rated because he has another title with the WBO, but ultimately, if you made the fight, they would take that into consideration. You can easily make the application and justification that he deserves to be rated. Parker's renaissance over the last 12 months has been just as impressive as Dubois, as he scored upset victories over both Deontay Wilder and Zhang. Both the TBRB and The Ring currently rank Joseph Parker one place below Daniel Dubois as the 4th best heavyweight in the world, following the points win over Zhang in March.
Parker's a good shout. Proven guy. Everybody's familiar with him.
He's been in there with almost everybody. Carlos Takam, Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Derek Chisora,
Joe Joyce,
Deontay Wilder, Zhang, Daniel Dubois could be next. And it's a good shout because he's on the up and up, because he's doing well too.
You think this is the best fight they can make?
I think on paper it is. I think on paper, Joseph stands out more than some other guys because he's a former champion, because of his track record, and because he's on the up and up. But is this the best fight? The very best fight? Frank Warren confirmed that the heavyweight Joseph Parker is contracted to Queensberry Promotions, making Dubois and Parker promotional stablemates. Dubois looked great versus Jarrell Miller, Philippe Hrgovic, and Anthony Joshua, Parker said. But there's a difference. I'm fresh, I'm hungry, and ready to go. I've been waiting since March for a big fight. Let's get it on now!
I like the Parker fight. I don't mind it. But I like a Bacoli fight even better. That if it were up to me to make the most intriguing fight possible To me, that's more Martin Bacoli than Joseph Parker. But I'm okay with Parker. I'm okay if they make it.
Another fighter reported as being in the running, British champion Fabio Wardley, has since been ruled out. However, Fabio asked for it. Queensberry chief Warren said at the weekend, "But I think it's too early, and I think it's a fight that we can build up, and if we can do it in the future, it could be a massive stadium fight."
That's what I figured he would say.
I don't hold it against him. It would be counterintuitive to feed one heavyweight to the other when they're both doing so well. That's two avenues for you to sell heavyweight action, heavyweight cards. It's not time yet to make Wardley versus Dubois.
What I want to see?
I wouldn't mind seeing Fabio Wardley versus Derek Chisora or Fabio Wardley versus Joe Joyce, Jarrell Miller. I wouldn't mind seeing that en route to an eventual Daniel Dubois fight.
Fabio's been impressive, very impressive, but I don't think it's time yet to put him in there with Daniel. I think those eggs need a little bit more bacon.
Over to Dubois versus Parker. Joseph Parker, former WBO champion. Solid enough fighter, experienced enough fighter that he can make Daniel work for it. It can be intriguing, but still seemingly more beatable than some other fighters.
Zhang would be a great fight for Daniel too, but it's a high-risk, low-reward fight. And given Daniel's propensity for opening up and going for the gusto, he could get countered. He could get taken out.
In the early goings of a match, say the first 4 or 5 rounds, while Zhang is still fresh, he's a talented counterpuncher and a crafty southpaw, defensible. That's when he's most dangerous, and that's when Daniel would be under threat of getting countered and getting stopped.
Wait a minute, but Joseph Parker beat Zhilei Zhang. How is Zhang more dangerous than Parker?
Because triangle theories don't work, and styles make fights. Daniel has a better chance of overwhelming Joseph with his offense than he does of Zhang, because if he tries it with Zhang, Zhang is big enough and crafty enough to counter him.
Don't you see that Daniel's been getting off to a fast start? All of these fights, the Miller fight, the Hrgovic fight, the Joshua fight. If you get off to a fast start with Zhang in those early rounds, that's where he's dangerous.
I view Joseph Parker for Daniel Dubois as the safer choice, and it's nothing to sneeze at because Joseph did beat Zhang, so it's worth something.
But just in terms of styles, because styles, after all, they make fights. I think Daniel will have an easier time with Joseph's style than Zhang's.
I remember when Joseph fought Joe Joyce, and how Joe was just overwhelming him with volume and aggression and activity. I think that Daniel Dubois can do that. I think he can overwhelm Joseph for the same reason.
Doing the same thing.
And when you're being that aggressive within a round and in a fight, there is always the risk that you're gonna get yourself countered. But Joseph Parker ain't that big a puncher, at least not as big a puncher as a Zhang or a Bacoli.
Right.
That Daniel stands a better chance of being able to take what Joseph Parker's got than somebody else that's out there. So it's a good fight. I think it's a winnable fight, an intriguing fight, and that might be the one that we get in February of next year. Dubois versus Parker.
I'll take it.
It's 2 Queensberry Promotions fighters in the main event. Things are coming up, Frank Warren.
They are. Queensberry has fast become the home of the heavyweights.